Hi everyone, Jennifer here. We are back from our European trip this year for 2017, and in this video I wanted to share my top 10 travel tips for traveling with small children. And I have really had a lot of experience in this area, so I feel like I know what I'm talking about here and I can confidently share with you my thoughts because I have traveled with everything from a 3-month-old baby to Japan. I traveled with 2 toddlers by myself one time to England. This time we traveled with all 3 kids with my husband, and I've traveled in everything from, coach, like tiny little seats to first class when I went to Japan. So I have really traveled the whole gamut with kids, and I have a lot to say on the matter. So in this video, I wanted to give you my 10 tips. This was highly requested. Okay, so like I said, I have traveled in all different circumstances with all different ages for small children. Last November, I went to Japan with my 3-month-old baby by myself. But that trip, I was traveling first class because I was doing a television show down there for my book, and they flew me first class. So that was an incredible experience. We had a flatbed on Japan Airlines, and it was pretty awesome. My baby was only 3 months old. He didn't move very much, he wasn't crawling or anything. So that trip was purely enjoyable. I had no complaints about that. Most of the time, obviously, that is not going to happen for most of us. And whenever our family travels and we're buying our own tickets, we are flying economy. And I've also flown with my 2 daughters when they were toddlers by myself. We went to England, met my husband up there, and we flew in economy as well. So I have experienced, the high class traveling, and I've also experienced, what most of us experience on a daily basis. Okay, and also before we begin, if you're new to my channel, I am a mother of 3. I have 2 girls, ages 5 and 7, and a baby who is now 16 months. So that's, my experience with small children. So let's get into my 10 tips. Number 1 is to plan as much as you can. And then be prepared to throw your plans out the window if things change, because they inevitably do. But it is very important to plan as much as you can, right down to the small detail. Don't hold on to those plans so tightly. And you don't want to have the attitude of, oh my gosh, I don't know how to cope if the plans change. So everything from, how you're going to get to the airport, down to what you're going to do at the airport, and what snacks and what food you plan to eat, and everything. Try to plan as much of it as you can, including unforeseen circumstances. So you can do this in a number of ways. You can have a list with you, you could have a planner, you could have it on your phone, discuss it with your husband, discuss it with your children, and have a plan. In this video, I'm mainly talking about airplane travel, but this can also be for road trips too, or any sort of long haul trip when you're with your children. Okay, number 2 is to be prepared with snacks and activity books. And this goes hand in hand with number 1, obviously, to plan things. So with small children, you must have snacks. You must have a lot of them, because there will be situations where you're hungry and you want a meal. It's lunchtime, yet you're just boarding the plane and you're not going to eat for 2 hours, for example. So just plan ahead and bring snacks, whatever they like. Apple slices. If you can try to bring healthy snacks, that's the best. But if they like crackers, my baby, he loves crackers. He loves those like teething biscuits. So I had a bunch of those because I knew if he gets fussy, I'm just gonna give him a cracker if I'm not able to nurse him. So yes, plan with lots of snacks and activity books. So really quickly, before we move on to activity books, we flew Norwegian Air to England, and they have these like new planes. It's really nice. But air travel has really changed. Back in the day when everybody got a meal, it's not like that on Norwegian Air. And my husband booked the tickets, so I didn't actually know that we had to either book our meals online, which we didn't do, or when you're in the plane, you order it. Now, what happened was we went to a restaurant before we got on the plane, and so we weren't hungry. So I didn't order any food for them. They were fine. But it's, you know, a 10-hour flight going there. So as the hours went on, the kids started to get hungry. So I said, okay, I'll just order, you know, some food to be brought to us. Well, they had run out of almost everything that we wanted. And so I was panicking a bit because we didn't have food. We ran out of snacks. I thought there was going to be food on the airplane, so I was not prepared. On the way back, I was fully prepared, and I had food and snacks and even lunches for us. So be prepared with snacks. Airlines have changed and they don't just feed you anymore automatically. Activity books. This is really important for kids because yes, we'll get to the iPad, which I'll talk about in a second, but it's important. They like to switch it up. And if you have a really engaging activity book with some pencils and crayons, that can keep them occupied when you're waiting at the airport, when you can't yet watch the television, at all sorts of times. So I found the best activity books, and I will link them below, and I think they're called the Never Bored Kid Book, and you can select them for the different ages, and my daughters loved these. Some of the crafts in them require scissors and glue, so they didn't do those on the plane, but when we were traveling around in Portugal and in England, they had them, and these activity books were just awesome. They completed the whole thing, so I really recommend these books, and I will link them below. My third tip is to deprive your children of the iPad or whatever tablet they have before the flight, like long before. And so in our house, we don't really let our kids play devices. They don't have, they have an iPad, but they never play it. So I just don't like them. I don't like what they do to them. But we do have them for emergency situations like a 10-hour plane ride. So basically, we deprive our kids of the iPad so that when we bring it out on the plane, it is such a treat for them that they are just delighted. And honestly, my two girls, ages 5 and 7 now, no trouble at all on the plane. I mean, nothing. No trouble. They just, traveling with them was pure joy. There was no problem. And I found that to be true as well when I flew alone with them to England. So they were just engaged with each other, with their activity books, and with the iPads so that they could do the apps. Now, yeah, I don't like it, but they did play them for a long time. They also watched shows on the, you know, cartoons on the airplane. At that, it just is what it is. You're confined for a long period of time, 10 to 11 hours, and they just have a lot of media. It's not my favorite, but I just look at it as in that's when they get to watch the iPad, and they don't really watch it anymore at home. So we're okay with that. But if your child is one who plays the iPad a lot or a tablet, deprive the child of it for a few weeks before you fly, and then it will be such a treat for them that they won't be any trouble on the plane. Tip number 4 is to give each child their own carry-on, their own backpack, and make sure that you pack it to make sure that everything is okay in there. But what I put in their backpacks were activity books. They had their own snack in their backpacks. They had a little airplane pillow. Theirs was a Dotson. I'll try to find it and link it below, but you know, for their necks. Also, they had their own headphones because again, airplanes do not provide these things and you have to buy them and sometimes they run out. So I had their own kid-friendly headphones, which I will link below. And water. Of course, once you get to the airport, then you buy the water and you put it in their backpack. So they had their own backpacks. They had a change of clothes in there. If they needed anything, I didn't have to rummage through my giant Mary Poppins bag to try to find their stuff. They each had their own stuff and they were in charge of it. And it gives them a sense of responsibility too. Number 5 is for babies, make sure you have different ways to carry them. We had our stroller and you can normally bring that all the way up to the gate, but then you have to check it. And at that point, you know, if your baby is like mine and he just likes to run off, I had to wear him. So I would wear him in the Baby Bjorn as we boarded the plane, when we got off the plane, go through customs and all of that stuff, I had to wear him. So make sure that you bring a wrap or some way that you can wear him. You don't want to just carry them in your hand and you have all your luggage. It's just too much. You need to be hands-free basically. So that's a huge one. These next points now are moving more to like mental, emotional, spiritual help with traveling with children. So here we go. Number 6 is to have a sense of humor. You've got to have a sense of humor when you're traveling with kids, and it's so easy to lose your sense of humor. And I admittedly lost my sense of humor many times on this trip. I just lost it. I had no sense of humor. Things weren't funny to me. But you try really hard to look on the funny side of things. If your kids are doing something that's annoying, yes, you can correct them, but also don't be too hard on them. Give them some grace and try to find humor in the situation if you can. Parents tend to be really stressed out when you're traveling, and the kids pick up on that. So if you're able to just kind of relax a bit and laugh things off and have a sense of humor, your children are watching how you deal with stressful situations. So if you just lose it and get stressed and irritable and angry, that's what they're gonna do when they grow up. So just try to keep that in mind. Okay, number 7, and I love this one. This is something that we emphasized and reiterated the entire trip, whether we were in the airport or in the rental car or taking a road trip or wherever we were, we would emphasize that we are a family team and we are going on a family adventure. And this really helps the children to feel like they're a part of something special, not just like you guys are just going somewhere, but that you're together as a team. This is an adventure that we're all going to take part in, and everybody has their own important role to play. Now, with this family team dynamic that we try to stress, we try to emphasize to them to put others before ourselves. Try to think of help your sister, help your brother before you help yourself. Help your mom, help your dad. And of course, we as parents always have to help our children before we help ourselves. If we have the attitude that we are other-centeredness rather than self-centered, that really helps. Before we did anything big, I would give them a pep talk. Okay, kids, we're a family team and we're going on this family adventure right now. So we're going to be in the car for a few hours, but just try to enjoy the sights, see what you can see out the window. Let's help each other out. Everybody's attitude wasn't always chipper and happy, and we didn't all get along. And of course the kids fought. And yes, I got irritated with them and with my husband and he with me and the kid. I mean, of course, we're just a regular family, right? But we really tried to emphasize family team, family adventure, family togetherness, and I think it helped tremendously because, you know, the grumpiness and all that could have been a lot worse. And I love it when I hear my kids say to each other when they don't know I'm listening, all right, we're a family team, you know, or we're going on a family adventure. This is just a very important dynamic and it really has worked for us. Okay, number 8, totally surrender. And just realize that you are probably not going to be able to relax when you have small children. You just won't while you're traveling. And if you do, that is a huge bonus, right? So set your expectations with regard to that very low and just surrender to the moment. Yes, when you were single or when it was just you and your husband and you're traveling, you could read your novel, you could rest, you could sleep on the plane, you could watch a movie, you could forget about all of that. It's just not happening. And if it does happen, great, and you will be pleasantly surprised. But you just have to totally surrender. Don't expect to be pampered or have luxury or anything, unless of course you're flying first class like I did when I went to Japan. But you know, you just have to just surrender. And you have to remain in the present moment. You can't wish that you were somewhere else. You're not somewhere else. You have to just be there. Now, when we were flying to England and back, I was extremely stressed because, you know, we're flying in economy and the next seat is like right here. And the baby doesn't have a seat. He's only 15 months. So he was on my lap pretty much the entire time. And he is so wiggly. And he's a boy and he's wiggly and he's just kicking the seat in front of me and wanting to get up. It is so stressful. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was incredibly stressed. I had the luxury of handing him off to my husband as soon as I couldn't take it anymore, and he would kind of walk him around the plane, and I would too, and he would hand him back to me. When you have a baby, you are gonna be in that confined space. They're gonna be wiggling. They're gonna be crying if their ears hurt from the plane. They're gonna be kicking the seat in front of them. It's for like 10 or 11 hours. You have to just keep them. keep them from like just wiggling too much. I don't know what it is. So if you can get them to sleep, whatever you do. Now, I continued to breastfeed through to this point because I knew that that is the only way to calm him down and put him to sleep. So I wore a breastfeeding friendly top, and that is how I put him to sleep. And he probably slept for like 3 hours both times. So then there was a long portion of time where he was awake. Lots of walking, lots of everything. But yes, it's not relaxing, and you won't be relaxed. You just won't. So just surrender and just accept that. And that's what you have to do. Number 9 is employ patience, extreme patience. And this is for the airport or wherever you are. So, you know, on our trip, we went to Portugal for 3 weeks, and we were in England for 2 weeks. And we had, you know, we were staying in different villas. We stayed with different family members. We stayed in the car. We had rental cars, different cars. We ate in restaurants. We ate with family. We ate in our villa. I mean, we had all variety of ways to be. And we are deeply a family of routine. We love our routines. I think that's partly because of me. I implement routines and we stick to them, and we are creatures of habit and we have our routines. But when you're traveling, you don't have those routines. So you must give grace to your kids. You must be patient with them. They will act out eventually because they're not used to it. They're jet lagged. They have different sleeping times. Now, I have to admit, I totally lost my patience several times on this trip. And so that's why I'm coming back to you now to say to you, employ patience with your kids. I had to remind myself so many times, be patient with them, give them grace. This is not easy for them, and they don't know how to express their frustration. So it comes out in other ways. So you've got to just try to be patient with your children and your husband. Okay, and the last thing is you must do what comforts you. There's so little, you know, you have no privacy, you have no space, you don't have your bubble space. You're constantly surrounded by small children and helping them. As soon as you sit down and rest, somebody needs the bathroom, and then you need to get up and do, you know what I mean? It's chaos. So you must find comfort where you can. For me, that's prayer. I was in prayer the whole time on this trip, and it comforted me, and it reminded me that this too shall pass. This is not forever. I can get through this. This is a short period of time. You must do what comforts you. So it's different, you know, for a lot of people, but you have to find comfort somehow amidst all the chaos. And the thing that I wrote down here was that you try, when you're in a dark place, try to focus on why you're traveling in the first place. So for us, we wanted to see family on this trip. That was the main reason we went to Europe. My husband's family, they all lived there. So when I was in a dark place thinking, you know, why am I putting myself through this torture of flying for 11 hours with the baby in my lap and you know, when I was in a dark place, I just reminded myself, okay, why am I doing this? So we can spend time with Ben's family. And that is worth it. I would do anything for us to do that. And we did. And it's just to see the grandparents and see the cousins and the aunts and uncles and everybody is priceless. And they created memories that, you know, they'll always have. Building those relationships, it's important. So focus on why you're traveling in the first place. I know, you know, many people during the holiday season, they travel back to their home, where they're from, or where their husband's from. And it's, you know, traveling during the holiday season is hard, and everybody has a cold, and the airport's a nightmare, and the plane. So try to remind yourself, why am I doing this? So we can spend Thanksgiving with family and build memories, or so we can spend Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever holiday that we're spending with our family. So keep your eye on the prize, on why you're doing it. And those are my tips on traveling with small children. Everything I talked about, I will try to leave linked below. If you have any tips yourself on traveling with small children, please let me know in the comment section below. And your comment could be chosen as comment of the week on the Daily Connoisseur blog. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will definitely be doing more chatting videos with you about how the trip went. I want to schedule a live YouTube with you, which I've never done before. So stay tuned for all of that. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me on the Daily Connoisseur, and I will see you soon. Bye.